I just want to mention now, when the detective who was assigned, he's referred to as the affiant in the arrest warrant. His name is Detective Jay Goodwin. I don't know his first name, if it's John, James, or what. But when he arrived on the scene, he observed the front right passenger side of the vehicle. Let me just put a picture of the vehicle up on the screen, because we've seen it from many different angles. There you go. There's the vehicle. He observed, and this is Detective Goodwin, a deceased pregnant female inside the front right passenger seat. Due to her affiant knowledge of the female on a previous murder case, he's talking about the murder of her brother that occurred in 2022. I think her brother's name was Ethan. He was 15 years old. The affiant recognized the female to be that of the missing female, of course, Savannah Soto. The female appeared to have trauma to her head. He's observing this as he goes to the crime scene. He also observed the backseat. He observed the deceased male in the backseat of the vehicle. The deceased male resembled the boyfriend to the female. The male had an apparent gunshot wound to his head. It appeared the male had been dragged into the vehicle. The detective didn't observe any weapon near the male. So they got a search warrant to process the car. While waiting for the search warrant, the affiant spoke to the families of the female and male. It was found that the boyfriend, who we know as Matthew Guerra, sold narcotics and would use his phone through cellular communication as well as social media to sell narcotics. It was also advised that the boyfriend would post money and narcotics on Instagram. It was stated that people wanted to rob the boyfriend, and it was stated that the boyfriend had been shot at before. The family provided the detective with the phone number of the female. The family of the male provided the detective with his phone number as well as Instagram. So why is that important? Because right on the scene now, the detective, Jay Goodwin, has the phone numbers of both victims. And smartly, he probably got another detective to start the ball rolling to get search warrants for those phones. And lo and behold, what do they find inside that car? They find Savannah Soto's cell phone. They don't find Matthew's cell phone, but they find Savannah Soto's. How important was that to the case, Phil?
Oh, it was extremely important because we know that there was a Google search for the location where we believe the murder took place. So that was extremely important. It's also going to give us a timeline where that cell phone traveled. Very, very important right there. That cell phone was at one location and it wound up at the location where the bodies were recovered. So that's another piece of technology that's going to show where the vehicle had traveled. We don't know if his cell phone was ever recovered someplace else. I'm talking about Matthew's cell phone. Was it recovered in the vehicle? However, even if it's not recovered, we'll be able to extract that information from the cell carrier, where the phone traveled, what text messages went by, what text messages were exchanged, as well as social media postings and responses. That's all accessible through the carrier for the cell phone. So even though the phone's not found, if it's found, it's great. If not, they could still get that information.
Absolutely. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, Billy, that was crucial because that gives the timeline. As Phil said, the timeline is so important, start to finish. What was the timeline of this crime from the time that they decided to go to Charlie Chan Drive? At what time was there a Google to search for that location? The invitation or the offer to buy narcotics. Very compact timeline. It was all before somewhere like 11:45, 11:55 at night on the 21st of December. And that is crucial because that cell phone places people and in a particular area at a particular time doing a particular thing. And that video, absolutely also, same thing. Very crucial.
I'm going to put the arrest affidavit up on the screen for right now, just to show you when the search warrant arrived at the location. A search of the vehicle was conducted. The search found it's written spent shell casing in the vehicle. However, there was no weapon recovered in the vehicle. There was apparent blood transfer on the outside of the vehicle, that was not consistent with the boyfriend causing harm to the female. Both the female and male had gunshot wounds to the head, and male also had apparent drag marks on his back. It was believed that the female and male were killed at a different location, and the vehicle was driven to the recovered location. So that's from the horse's mouth. So when social media is telling us that, no, they were both shot inside the car, that's not the conclusion that the investigators coming to from the physical evidence inside the car, from the evidence drag marks on Matthew Guerra's back. How do you get drag marks if you're already inside the car? The blood outside the car, isn't that also indicative of potentially the shooting of at least one of them? At least one of them. I think, Phil, you probably hit the scenario correctly that Matthew Guerra was shot outside the car and Savannah Soto was shot inside the car.
That's what it says.
Thus, the one spent shell casing. Thus, all this other evidence we talk about, blood spatter, the drag marks, all the scientific evidence that social media is unable, incapable, and unqualified to explain. But professional crime scene technicians, professional detectives responding to the scene and observing the crime scene can interpret the crime scene in a way that social media cannot. Mike?
Yeah, Billy, when you look at arrest affidavits and search warrant affidavits, they're trying to make a case, probable cause, in order to get a search, in order to get an arrest for someone, and they're going to include everything that is relevant to that discussion. And so the police, if they wanted to and had the time, it would be unnecessary, but they could put a lot more. They could make this search warrant affidavit, this arrest affidavit, 3 times as thick. So that's all the other stuff that will be presented later on to the grand jury. But for the police purpose right now, at that time, was to get an arrest warrant, a search warrant. They provided the judge with just enough probable cause at that point, and the judge signed the arrest warrant. So there's a whole lot more that is in that case file, as you and Phil know much better than me. There's a whole lot more that hasn't been revealed. It doesn't mean they don't have it, and I don't want people to think that, oh my God, the police only have a little bit of information at this point. They're not clear.